and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tess, if you don't know me yet, and I am a licensed esthetician, content creator, podcaster. I run an all virtual skincare clinic, and I am the founder of a very new skincare brand, hopefully coming before 2022. Stay tuned for details. I'm so excited. But I am obsessed with all things skin and aesthetics and helping new professionals navigate the industry. So in today's video, I'm going to be bringing you a little Q&A and answering some of the questions you submitted on Instagram. I'm so excited. So before we get into it, make sure you're following my social media. I post a ton of educational content there. Don't forget my podcast is available on iTunes and Spotify. It's a really nice way to squeeze in the education while you're going on a walk or doing the dishes, something like that. And don't forget to like this video if you like it, subscribe for more, and let's get into the Q&A. Okay, I'm so excited. I haven't done a YouTube Q&A in a hot minute. I do a lot of podcast Q&A, so I think those are worth checking out if you like this style of video Q&A, but let's get into it. The first question is virtual aesthetic education versus in-person, pros and cons. Okay. Unpopular opinion, I don't always think we need to be in a classroom to learn, but I also think it really depends on the style of learner you are. So I think it's worth thinking about as an individual what setting you learn best in. I think for myself, I almost learn better at home in solitude, just, watching a video when I'm inspired and have the time and I can sit down and really absorb the information without other distractions. But I feel like there's also a lot of people who would say I learned so much better with the encouragement and support of a classroom setting. I thrive off of other people asking questions and just the in-person energy. So I think that kind of depends on the person, but I don't think it's necessarily true that a virtual class would be like less of an educational opportunity. It just really depends on you. And I think it depends on the class too. So I know for some subjects like lymphatic drainage, or if you're doing an extraction class or a massage class, it's going to be much more helpful for you to be in person, working on a model and getting that hands-on experience. So I think there's definitely subjects where it's hard to replace that. I have taken a virtual lymphatic drainage class with Michele, and it was fantastic, and I learned a lot, and I still practiced on my boyfriend while I was watching the class. But I think it depends on, again, type of person, type of learner you are, and then the nature of the class. If it's, an ingredients course, that might be something you can kind of absorb at home a little bit better and just, slowly go through, because with that kind of class, it's just a lot of information. But then again, somebody might learn that subject better with a teacher and with their classmates. So I think it really depends on the situation. Did you ever have a mentor? Okay, I think this is a great question, and I think the term mentor can be so broad. It could be somebody who was involved in your career, possibly an educator at school, or somebody you look up to who gives you, advice. It could also be somebody you directly pay for coaching. And I do think people are just, for the most part, more invested and able to set aside time to help you when you pay for their services. But there's all different kinds of mentors. I consider Michele, who is the founder of Concepts Institute, I consider her a mentor. Same with Douglas Preston. They both feel like family to me at this point, and our relationship started out with me just paying to take their classes. Eventually I found out I could get facials from them, so I started going to see them for facials, and that was so educational just to even be able to feel what the service is like. And in that time, our relationships just developed, and now we have a comfortable relationship, or if I had a question, I could go to them. Sometimes they come to me for things, and it's just a relationship that has grown with time. But I have to say, I think be very careful when pursuing coaching opportunities. I think the wisest measure to make sure you're investing in somebody who can truly help you is to find somebody who has a specific background in the subject you're interested in, which might seem like common sense, but I think there are situations where sometimes people are coaching in areas that aren't necessarily their wheelhouse to simply make a profit, unfortunately. I'm very honest. If anybody comes to me for my coaching services, I don't advertise them super heavily just because I'm short on time, but they are available. And I'm very honest. If somebody comes to me and says, if they want to open a business or start a big day spa, I'm simply not the person to help because I don't have experience with that. I've never actually owned a spa, so I think there are better people out there to help you with that. However, if somebody has general questions about aesthetics, they want some guidance about, being new in the industry, or social media. I have been a social media manager before, or if somebody wants to get into virtual aesthetics, those are arenas I would say I can help somebody with. But I think it comes down to finding coaches who have expertise in what you want to do. And sometimes if you find that right person, there can be nobody better to learn from. So that's a really good option to think about if you're having trouble finding a mentor. At the same time, I think there are so many great resources these days. If you don't feel like you have somebody, I don't think it's anything to panic about. You can learn a lot on your own, but I think those relationships in aesthetics are very important. And you can also learn a lot from your peers, and so much is out in the open about people's businesses these days. So I think you can even just learn a lot from networking if you don't necessarily have a specific mentor. What does a rosacea protocol look like without steam, hot towels, or massage? Such a good question, and I feel like this is common knowledge now that we know not to use steam or add excess heat or friction in a rosacea protocol. But at the same time, I know I didn't learn anything about that in school. I actually didn't even learn anything about that at the spas I worked at. It may be that I think our knowledge about rosacea is expanding, and even a few years ago, I think we just didn't have as much of a common understanding of the condition as we do now. So rosacea is an inflammatory condition. It's basically hyperactive vascularity. So there's a lot of heat involved in the condition. Somebody with rosacea is already experiencing more trauma in their skin on a daily basis. So I would keep the protocol based more around cooling and calming and nourishing and protecting the skin. So it is going to be a little bit different probably than your signature facial, and you will have to modify, and that is, kind of the beauty of skincare, and we should be customizing based on the client, especially when there is an inflammatory condition involved. So I personally would not use steam. I would not use hot towels. I would actually reach for some kind of removal method that is more gentle. I have these little eco-friendly cotton rounds that are very soft. They almost feel like the texture of the makeup eraser. That could also be an option, but I would lean towards something very soft and gentle and keep the water temperature more mild to cool. I wouldn't be doing a lot of vigorous massage because we don't want to promote a boost in circulation, because that will contribute to that vascularity and add heat to the skin. So instead of a 10-minute facial massage like you would do on a normal skin type, I would involve, again, more cooling and calming, such as some ice globes, that are just a more mild temperature. Something else to know about rosacea is you want to prevent any extreme temperature shifts. And if you've ever talked to a rosacea client, they've probably told you before that they notice when they go from hot to cold or vice versa. So maybe like going from an indoor workout class or God forbid, like a hot yoga class outside in, let's say, you know, it's Chicago and it's wintertime, it's very cold outside, they'll probably experience a sensation in their skin that's almost like a windburn sensation. It's not comfortable and it is signaling that they're experiencing a flare. So we want to keep things, again, more moderate in terms of temperature at all times. So I wouldn't use like freezing cold ice globes from the freezer. Instead, I'd keep them, you know, in a fridge or like a skin fridge. So they're just cool, but not freezing cold. So that way we aren't shocking their delicate little capillaries. So just keeping things more mild, maybe like a cool jelly mask. Just avoiding things that are going to induce a lot of heat or friction or just be super vigorous. So I hope that helps. Best acne medicine for hormonal breakouts. So this is another good one. I have to say, as estheticians, we do not prescribe medication or medicine. We have to stay within our scope of practice. So typically, when hormonal acne is involved, the best thing to do is refer your client out to their primary care or to their dermatologist. I know there are a lot of ESTYs who would argue we really don't treat hormonal acne. We more so work on congestive acne that's more bacterial based. I know some ESTYs might say the opposite, and I kind of see both sides because I do think there are things we can do to give hormonal acne the best environment, and there are definitely things we can do to help. However, when it comes to a medicine, again, I would refer them out to their doctor or their derm, and that is our responsibility as estheticians. Speaking generally, the one I most often see prescribed is spironolactone, which works by sitting on the androgen receptors and thus basically helping with hormonal acne. It can be very effective if there is a true hormonal imbalance at play, but again, that's something you would refer out to for. Is salicylic acid okay for inflamed acne? So it's really not my fave to use on inflamed acne. Salicylic acid is lipophilic, and its main purpose is to reduce oil and unclog congestion with non-inflamed breakouts such as blackheads or whiteheads. I don't feel typically it's super effective on inflamed acne, although I do think this is where there can be a difference between ingredients and formulations. For example, Is Clinical makes active serum, which does contain salicylic derived from willow bark, and that one can be very effective on more cystic breakouts or breakouts that are inflamed as well, and there are some amazing clinical trials. So there are exceptions, and salicylic acid can be a powerful anti-inflammatory, but kind of typical rule of thumb is that you would choose benzoyl peroxide and start with a lower percentage. But you would want to use that on those inflamed breakouts and use salicylic for non-inflamed breakouts. When did you realize you had a passion for skincare? Oh, I love this question. It's so sweet. So I think from a really, really young age, honestly. So I think I've always been attracted to water and the cleansing process and beautification. So I always loved taking baths and showers growing up, and I'm about to really expose myself, but I even loved like giving my dog and my hamster, I'd put him in the sink with like a little bit of warm water and just like gently bathe him, give him a little facial little spa experience, and I was always obsessed with that. I also had this little DIY face mask book, and not saying this is what I would recommend now, but we had all these little recipes for making your own face masks at home. So I would do that with my friends, and it was something I was like so excited about. I would even like make a little tea parlor and like set that up, and then have my friends come into the spa. So I just loved that. I would beg my mom to take me to the drugstore, that was kind of like the peak of all there was to offer at the time with skincare, but I'd beg my mom to take me to CVS, and I would just like go through the bottles and, you know, look at the back of it and read it and, you know, whatever, make whatever assumptions I could at the time, but I was just always really, really drawn to it. I think another big influence for me was magazines. So I didn't grow up with social media, obviously. We didn't even have blogs, so we really learned about skincare and beauty from magazines. So I subscribed to all of them: Cosmo Girl, Teen Vogue, Allure, and when I got my magazine, that was like my little first experience with self-care. So I would lock my bedroom door and just like sit on my bed with all of my magazines, and that was like heaven to me. So for a long time, I actually kind of thought that would be my path. I wanted to work for a magazine and I wanted to be a beauty editor. So I actually went to college for creative writing and journalism because I had read in a magazine that's how you know, could wind up working for one. So that's what I pursued in college, and I ended up working in media, and I was very close to beauty products, and I got that experience working at magazines. I think at a certain point, I just realized the structure of a corporate job was not really conducive to me and my personality. I think I'm somebody who could be really, really good and valuable in a corporate role, but I don't think I necessarily had what it would take to kind of like get to the next level and climb the corporate ladder. I just remember one day like kind of looking around at my managers and realizing I didn't want their job, and I didn't know where else there really was for me to go. And at the same time, I was so obsessed with learning about what was popular and new and, you know, trendy in terms of beauty, but I didn't really know why the products worked. So that was kind of a big turning point in my career where I realized there was really nowhere else for me to go at the job, and I still had this curiosity for beauty and learning more about fundamentally why things worked. Coincidentally, that was when I got my first facial. I think I was 25 or 26, and that's really what changed the game forever for me. That's when I quit my corporate job and ended up pursuing aesthetics. And there's more to the story, but here we are now. Okay guys, my camera is about to die, so I'm going to cap the Q&A here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it. I love you, and I will see you in the next video.